Hi, and welcome to this in-tray tutorial. The in-tray in Invitbox is where invoices will arrive automatically after they're received, and they will be presented to the first set of approvers. Notice in this in-tray setup we have currently got some groups set up: cleaning, drinks and expenses. So bear in mind that when you're logged in as a user, if you are using the groups feature in Invitbox, you will only see the groups that you are assigned to. Admin users can see all groups, but approver users can only see their relevant group. For this demo, you can see that we have visibility on all groups. First thing to note in the in-tray is that there are two separate types of invoice map that can come through. There is a line item map like this one, which you can see displays product code and product description, the quantity and the unit price. Secondly, there is a service, which simply presents a summary service of each of the lines, a description and an amount. You only really need to use a line item invoice if you are going to send this information through to external inventory systems, which is done via the inventory tab. For more information on the inventory tab, please refer to the guides in the support tab of Invitbox. So once an invoice is received, as a user you really have three options. You can either approve the invoice, you can trash the invoice if it's, for example, a duplicate. In this last scenario, you'll notice we have flagged with this red icon the duplicate invoice. If I was to click on that icon, you can see it tells me, well, I have two separate copies and this is the locations. So what I might want to do is I might want to trash the duplicate copy. Okay, so back to the in-tray. So if you can approve, you can do trash, and the last option is you can dispute. So if I was short delivered or overcharged on a particular invoice, I might want to leave a note in this top right note section, and leave whatever note you so wish, add the note, then you would dispute the invoice. This invoice will move to the disputed tab, which is very simply a holding tab. From the holding tab it stays until such times as you get a resolution from the supplier. That may be a credit note coming into the in-tray, or it may be a re-invoice. Then you can either trash the invoice if so, or you can return it to the in-tray to move through with the credit note if this is the appropriate course of action. You'll notice with these icons, this particular notes icon will display the notes to you. Bear in mind that these notes are indelible. They cannot be removed from the Invitbox system, and they'll be stored for 7 years in the filing cabinet. Okay. Now if I go back to the edit invoice detail, bear in mind that Invitbox strips out all of this information automatically from electronic bills, but it is all amendable, so you can change any of these details if you so wish. So you'll notice here we detect the supplier, we select a GL code based on the supplier level. So when you set up your supplier profile, you actually set a GL code and a project or tracking category at the supplier level, and then we will automatically generate this each time. Again, for more information on that, please see a separate video tutorial on setting up suppliers from the unknowns. Then in this particular scenario, the information we've extracted on the lines: description, product code, quantity, unit price. You'll notice we detect line by line automatically which are taxable or not. We also, if I just put in a dummy line there, if there's a discrepancy between the information that we take out of the footer and our calculations, we will highlight that to you. So what we've done here is this column on the left hand side, this is the information we've actually extracted from the footer of the invoice. Then this information on the right hand side is a sanity check Invitbox performs. To working on your locally set tax rates, we'll just calculate what the totals should be by our calculations, and we'll highlight any discrepancies. Some other things we do here is if the supplier is not registered for GST but has charged GST, this box here will be red to tell you that they have done that. You will also notice some different colors here in these boxes. If you have any products that have agreed pricing with your supply chain, very simply Invitbox will automatically price check these products for you as they come through the in-tray, all done automatically. Now you'll notice this View Details button. This is very important. If you then need to change any tax codes change any GL codes or any tracking categories or projects on a line-by-line basis, this is where you would do that. What Invitbox then does is the first time that you set these for a particular line item or product and hit save, Invitbox automatically behind the scenes remembers those and saves those as defaults. Obviously you can go in and change these, but we start to automatically generate all of this information to avoid any repetitive actions. Very quickly you will find that you do not have to select any tax codes or GL codes or tracking categories. It's all done automatically. So from here, as I mentioned at the start, your three options are dispute, trash or approve. So let's assume if everything is correct, you're simply going to approve the invoice. This invoice then moves through to the approve tab. Again, approve. From the approve tab, there is then a range of things that can be done from here by the next user or next approver. For more information on that, please refer to the separate guide. Just to round up, before I leave here, I'll just go through this more options. You can obviously email to yourself, that will send the logged in user a copy of the actual invoice. You can mark it as unread, you can reprice check it manually if you wish. Remap invoice is an option if for any reason you need to reapply a map. You can click this button and it will go back to the unknowns. Again, this is covered in more detail in another session. Lastly, you can send an invoice task. Now when you send an invoice task, you can send a particular one-off request to a separate user. So if you find that you have a bill awaiting your approval, but someone else has arranged that service or ordered those products, you can send them a one-off task. A little green avatar will appear here once that's been approved, and they will receive an email to one-off approve that task. Lastly, you'll see two last options we have: a show invoice history and transfer invoice. The transfer invoice is pretty straightforward. It just moves the invoice through to an alternative company that you are registered with. And the show invoice history shows you every single time anyone has touched this invoice, when it was received. This is a fully ATO compliant audit history, and this information is saved for the 7 years. So that wraps it up for the in-tray. Please go on to view our Approve tab tutorial for further information on the next steps.